In the profound teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, one of the most transformative distinctions he illuminated for spiritual seekers is the fundamental difference between ego purpose and divine purpose. This distinction lies at the very heart of the spiritual journey, representing the chasm between living a life driven by the limited, fear-based consciousness of the separate self and surrendering to the infinite wisdom and love that flows from our true nature as expressions of the divine. Understanding this difference is not merely an intellectual exercise but a practical key that unlocks the door to genuine fulfillment, inner peace, and the realization of our highest potential. Before we begin, if you enjoy this video, give me a like, comment below about your thought and hit subscribe button so you don't miss any video inspired by Yogananda's teaching. Thank you very much. The ego purpose, as Yogananda taught, emerges from our identification with the body, mind, and personality as our true self. From the moment we are born into this physical world, we begin to develop a sense of I and mine that becomes increasingly solidified through our experiences, conditioning, and the reinforcement of society. This ego self believes itself to be separate from all other beings and from God, existing as an isolated island in a vast ocean of existence. From this fundamental misperception of separation, all ego purposes arise. The ego seeks to establish its importance, to prove its worth, to accumulate possessions and achievements that will validate its existence and protect it from the perceived threats of an uncertain world. When we operate from ego purpose, our motivations are rooted in fear, desire, and the endless attempt to fill an inner void that can never truly be satisfied by external means. The ego purpose drives us to pursue success as the world defines it, to seek recognition and approval from others, to compete and compare ourselves with those around us, and to build elaborate structures of identity based on our roles, accomplishments, and possessions. We may strive to become wealthy, famous, powerful, or respected, believing that these achievements will finally bring us the happiness and security we crave. Yet Yogananda consistently pointed out that no matter how much the ego acquires or achieves, it remains fundamentally unsatisfied because it is seeking in the wrong direction, looking outward for what can only be found within. The ego purpose is characterized by a sense of personal doership, the belief that, I am the one doing this, and, I must make things happen through my own effort and will. This creates a tremendous burden of anxiety and stress, as we feel solely responsible for outcomes and constantly worry about failure, loss, and the judgments of others. The ego purpose is also inherently limited by our personal perspective, knowledge, and understanding. We make plans and set goals based on what our limited mind can conceive, often missing the far greater possibilities that exist beyond our narrow vision. Furthermore, ego purposes are frequently in conflict with one another and with the purposes of other egos, creating the friction, competition, and suffering that characterize so much of human existence. Yogananda taught that the ego purpose, while appearing to offer a path to happiness and fulfillment, actually leads to bondage and suffering. The more we invest in ego purposes, the more we strengthen the illusion of separation and the more we distance ourselves from our true nature. The achievements of the ego are temporary and ultimately meaningless in the face of death and the eternal nature of the soul. The ego's purposes die with the body, leaving the soul no richer in the only currency that truly matters, which is spiritual realization and the expansion of consciousness. In stark contrast, divine purpose flows from an entirely different source and operates according to completely different principles. Divine purpose emerges when we begin to recognize our true identity not as the limited ego self but as the soul, an eternal spark of the divine consciousness that pervades all existence. As we deepen our spiritual practice through meditation, self-inquiry, and devotion, we gradually dissolve the barriers of ego identification and begin to experience ourselves as part of the infinite whole. From this expanded awareness, a different kind of purpose naturally arises, one that is aligned with the cosmic intelligence that orchestrates the entire universe. Divine purpose is not something we create or decide upon through mental effort or personal ambition. Rather, It is something we discover and allow to express itself through us as we become increasingly transparent to the divine will. Yogananda often spoke of becoming an instrument of God, a flute through which the divine breath can play its perfect melody. When we align with divine purpose, we are no longer acting from the limited perspective of the separate self but are allowing the infinite wisdom and love of God to guide our thoughts, words, and actions. This requires a profound surrender, a willingness to release our personal agendas and trust in a higher intelligence that sees the complete picture of existence in ways our limited minds cannot comprehend. The divine purpose for each soul is unique and perfectly suited to that soul's particular qualities, talents, and stage of evolution. God does not have a one-size-fits-all plan but rather a customized purpose for each being that allows them to contribute their unique gifts to the cosmic symphony while simultaneously advancing their own spiritual growth. Yogananda emphasized that discovering and fulfilling our divine purpose is the most direct path to lasting joy and fulfillment because it aligns us with the natural flow of the universe rather than placing us in opposition to it. When we live in alignment with divine purpose, several profound shifts occur in our experience of life. First, there is a sense of rightness and flow that replaces the struggle and resistance characteristic of ego-driven living. Things seem to fall into place with a synchronicity that feels almost magical, as the universe conspires to support us in fulfilling our divine mission. This does not mean that challenges disappear, but rather that we meet them with a different quality of consciousness, seeing them as opportunities for growth and refinement rather than as threats to our ego's agenda. Second, living from divine purpose brings a deep sense of meaning and fulfillment that the ego's achievements can never provide. When we know that our life is serving a higher purpose, that we are instruments through which divine love and wisdom are flowing into the world, every action becomes sacred and significant. Even the most mundane tasks can be infused with spiritual purpose when performed with the consciousness that we are serving God through serving others and fulfilling our unique role in the cosmic plan. Third, divine purpose liberates us from the burden of personal doership and the anxiety that accompanies it. When we recognize that it is God working through us rather than our separate ego accomplishing things through its own power, we can relax into a state of peaceful participation in life rather than stressed striving. We do our part with full dedication and effort, but we release attachment to outcomes, trusting that the divine intelligence knows what is truly best and will bring about the perfect result in the perfect timing. This attitude, which Yogananda called divine indifference to results, paradoxically makes us more effective in our actions because we are no longer hampered by fear, doubt, and the paralysis that comes from over-attachment to specific outcomes. Fourth, living in alignment with divine purpose naturally expands our consciousness and accelerates our spiritual evolution. The ego purpose keeps us trapped in a limited circle of personal concerns and desires, but divine purpose draws us into ever-widening circles of compassion, service, and identification with all beings. As we serve the divine through serving others, we gradually transcend the boundaries of the separate self and experience the unity that underlies all apparent diversity. This is the ultimate purpose behind all divine purposes, to awaken us to our true nature as one with God and all creation. Yogananda provided practical guidance for transitioning from ego purpose to divine purpose. The foundation of this transition is the practice of meditation, which quiets the restless mind and allows us to experience the deeper dimensions of our being beyond the ego. In the silence of deep meditation, we can begin to hear the subtle voice of intuition, which is the soul's way of communicating divine guidance. Regular meditation gradually weakens the grip of ego identification and strengthens our awareness of ourselves as the soul, the eternal witness that exists beyond all changing phenomena. Prayer is another essential practice for aligning with divine purpose. Not the prayer of begging or bargaining, but the prayer of communion and surrender, in which we open ourselves to receive divine guidance and offer ourselves as instruments for the divine will to be done. Yogananda taught that we should pray not for specific outcomes that our limited ego desires but for the wisdom to know and the strength to fulfill whatever purpose God has for us. We should pray to be shown the way and given the courage to walk it, even when it leads us in directions our ego might resist. Self-inquiry and honest self-examination are also crucial for distinguishing between ego purpose and divine purpose. We must learn to recognize the telltale signs of ego motivation, such as the desire for personal recognition, the need to prove ourselves, the fear of what others will think, and the attachment to specific outcomes. When we notice these ego patterns arising, we can consciously choose to release them and realign with a higher intention. We can ask ourselves penetrating questions such as, am I doing this to serve God and others, or to enhance my ego, and, is this action arising from love and wisdom, or from fear and desire? Cultivating the qualities of humility, surrender, and devotion is essential for living in alignment with divine purpose. Humility allows us to recognize that of ourselves we can do nothing, that all power and wisdom come from God, and that we are simply channels through which the divine expresses itself. Surrender means releasing our personal will and agenda, trusting that God's plan for us is far better than anything our limited mind could devise. Devotion opens our hearts to the love of God and makes us willing to dedicate our entire lives to serving the divine in whatever way we are called. The journey from ego purpose to divine purpose is not accomplished overnight but is a gradual process of transformation that unfolds over time as we consistently apply spiritual principles and practices to our daily lives. There may be periods of confusion and uncertainty as we release old patterns and wait for divine guidance to become clear. There may be times when we slip back into ego-driven behavior and must gently redirect ourselves toward our higher purpose. This is all part of the natural process of spiritual growth, and we should approach it with patience and compassion for ourselves. Ultimately, Yogananda taught that the highest divine purpose for every soul is the same, to realize our oneness with God and to help others do the same. All the specific forms that divine purpose takes in individual lives are ultimately in service of this supreme goal. Whether we are called to be teachers or healers, artists or scientists, parents or monastics, the underlying purpose is always to express divine love and wisdom in our unique way and to assist in the awakening of consciousness on this planet. When we understand this, we can see that there is no conflict between different divine purposes, only a beautiful diversity of expressions of the one divine purpose that is seeking to manifest itself more fully in this world. In conclusion, the distinction between ego purpose and divine purpose represents one of the most important understandings we can gain on the spiritual path. The ego purpose, arising from our identification with the limited separate self, leads to struggle, suffering, and ultimate disappointment, no matter how much worldly success it may achieve. The divine purpose, flowing from our true nature as souls united with God, brings lasting fulfillment, peace, and joy while serving the highest good of all beings. By cultivating spiritual awareness through meditation, prayer, and devotion, and by consciously choosing to surrender our personal will to the divine will, we can gradually transition from living for ego purposes to living in alignment with our divine purpose. This is the essence of the spiritual life and the key to experiencing heaven on earth.